Hi everybody, good morning to all. I'm Sangeetha, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology from Tech Multitech Engineering College. So today we are going to see the topic version control system in full stack software development. So version control system is nothing but a category of a software tool that help in recording changes made to files by keeping a track of modification done in the code. So why it is important? Why we are going for version control system? Software product is developed in collaboration by a group of developers. So it might be located at different location, and each one of them contribute to some specific kind of functionality, code, or features. So this version control system is a kind of software that helps the developer team to efficiently communicate and manage. That is, it will track all the changes that have been made to the source code, along with the information like who made and what changes have been made. Let's suppose if a team of developer adds some new functionality in your code, that is in your application, and then updated version. So if you are doing some changes in the code, so if you are doing changes in that code and updated version is not working properly in that application, so you can use the world version. That is, as the version control system keeps track of our work, what we are doing. The version control main purpose is it will track our work so that with the help of this, we can omit the new changes and we can continue with the previous version. Okay. So what are the benefits, main benefits of the version control system? It will enhances the project development speed by providing efficient collaboration and reduces the possibility of errors, that is conflicts towards project development to every small change, and helps in recovery of in case of any disaster and contingent situation. So in that situation we may lose the code, source code, right? So if, we can have a version control system means it will track of our every changes in the source code or our software development application. So inform us about who, what, when, and why changes have been made. So next, employers or contributors of the project can contribute from anywhere, irrespective of the location, that is geographical location. We can use this version control system. So it will enhances the productivity, expedites the product delivery, and skills of the employees through better communication and assistance. Okay. Next, main use of the version control system is a repository. It can be thought of a database of changes, and it contains all the edits and historical versions, that is snapshots of the project. Then copy of the work, sometimes called as a checkout. Okay, so it is a personal copy of all the files in a project. You can edit to this copy without affecting the work of others, and you can finally commit your changes to a repository when you are done making your changes. So it can be working in a group. While we are working in a group, we can use this version control system. So consider yourself working in your company where you are asked to work on some live project. You can't change the main code as it is in production, and any change may cause inconvenience to the user since it is a live project. So if you're changing anything means it will cause the inconvenience to the user. So if in working in a team, you need to collaborate with your team to and adapt their changes. Version controls helps you with the merging different requests to main repository without any undesirable changes. You may test the functionality without putting it live, and you don't need to download and set up each time. Just pull the changes and do the changes. Test it and manage it bug. So it may be visualized as what the changes some others has made. Okay, the types of version controls system is local version control system, centralized version control system, distributed version control system. There are three types of version control system. So first one is the local version control system. It is the simplest form and has a database. So in the database will have all the changes to the files under revision control. So database will have the changes, what are all the changes we have made until the project ends. So it will keep track of the database will keep track of the changes. And revision control system is one of the most common version control system tool. it keeps path sets, difference between files, that is path sets. This file will be different from this, and so it will make the differences between the files in a special format on the disk. By adding up all the patches, it can then recreate with any file look like at any point of time. Okay. So this is a local version control system. Next one is a centralized version control system. This is the second type. And second, centralized version control system contain just one repository globally, that is central client server, like a client server. So main server, like it's a centralized server, is a centralized client server architecture. So it will have just one repository globally, and every user need to commit for reflecting one changes in the repository. If anyone is changing the source code or anything, they're changing in the application or main code, so it will update in the repository. So it is possible for others to see your changes by updating. Okay, two things are required to make your changes visible to others, which are, one is you commit and they update. So while you are changing, you commit to the repository and they will update. Others will update from the repository. What are the changes made to the repository? And next, this is a diagram for a centralized version control system. So repository is a server, like a server. Other working copy are client. Once you are committing the changes to the repository, and everyone will update from the repository. So this is a centralized version control system. So benefits of centralized version control system makes collaboration among developers, along with providing an insight to a certain extent on what everyone else is doing in the project. It allows administrators to fine-grain control over who can do what. Okay, so it has some downsides as well, which lead to the development of distributed version system. Okay, so the most obvious is a single point of failure, that is in the centralized repository represent if it goes down means during that period, collaboration and saving version changes not possible. So what if the hard disk of the central database become corrupted and proper backups have not been kept yet? So you will lose absolutely everything. So if the center, that is client server, it looks like client server architecture. If the server fails, every other client will suffer for getting the information. So like that only, this is a centralized version system. So if the centralized repository is failed, so not possible to cope up with the work. If it is goes down means, so everything will be corrupted. So you will lose all the information what all the done to the repository. So this is a major disadvantage of the centralized version control system. And third one is distribution version control system. Distributed version control system contain multiple repositories. Each user has their own repository and working copy. Everyone will have a server. Every client will have a server like that. So like that, every client will have a server in the distributed version control system. So it will have the working copy also. So just committing your changes will not give other access to your changes. This is because commit will reflect those changes in your local repository, and you need to push them in order to make them visible on the central repository. So if you're making changes in your code, in your own repository, you are changing the source code. Okay, then you have to commit to the central repository that you have done the changes in your code. So similarly, when you update, you don't get others changes unless you are first to pull those changes to your repository. This is the distributed version control system. So the diagram will look like this: server computer, computer A and computer B. This is computer A will have the version 1, 2, 3, but that is, it will have own database, that is repository, and computer B will have a own repository, that is own, it will make own copy, and server computer will have a own copy. Okay. So if computer A is making changes in the source code means it will update in this own repository, and it will make changes to the server computer. If computer B makes any changes means it will update in the own repository first, and it will update the changes to the central server repository. And this is a distributed version control system. So what is the difference between a distributed and version control This centralized and distributed version control system means centralized means it will uses the client server architecture. In a centralized version control system, one or more client system are directly connected to a central server. Contrarily, the distribution version control system or system that uses peer-to-peer architecture. So we have the difference between them. So first, in centralized is in the left side and distributed is the right side. So see the tabular column in centralized, the repository is placed at one place and delivers information to many clients. But here in the distributed version control system, every user has a local copy of the repository in place of the central repository on the server side itself. Okay. So in the centralized version control system, it is based on client server approach. It is purely based on client server architecture. It is based on the client server approach. It's also based on the client server approach, but each client will have their own server, that is own repository. Next, in centralized version control system, it is a most straightforward system based on the concept of the central repository, and in distributed, it is flexible and has merged with the concept that everyone has a repository, own repository. In centralized version control system, the server provides the latest code to all the clients across the globe. In distributed version control system, every user can check out the snapshot of the code and they can fully mirror the central repository. And centralized version control system is easy to administrate and has additional control over users and access by its server from one place. Distributed version is fast comparing in CV centralized version control system as you don't have to interact with the central server for every command. Okay, the popular tool of a centralized version control system or SVN, that is subversion and centralized version system. The popular tool of distributed version control system is JIT and Mercurial. The centralized version control system is easy to understand for beginners, and distributed version control system has some complex process for beginners. So it is easy to understand. So it is easy process, but it is complex to understand for the beginners. In centralized version control system, if the server fails, no system can access data from another system. If any in distributed version control system, if any server fails and other system are collaborating with it, that server can restore any of the client repositories. Okay. So this is the major difference between centralized version control system and the distributed version control system. So we are going to see about the JIT. So that is JIT. It is a distributed version control system. So we are using both in Windows and Linux. Everywhere we are using Git commands. Okay, for making the source code changes. It is one of the software tool in distributed version control system to make the changes. So to use Git, you have to install it in your computer. First, we have to install in the computer. Even if you have already installed Git, it is probably a good idea to upgrade it to the latest version. So you can either install it as a package via another installer or we can download it from the official website. So how to download Git? The step 1. What is the step 1 means? Click on the, you can search the Google Git download. From Google, you can download the Git. So in this screen, you can download the Git for Windows. So I'm telling the steps for installing the Git in Windows. So download this version, Git version 2.23.0 for Windows. Download this version from this package. Okay. Next, click on the download installer file and select yes to continue. After we are selecting yes, the installation begins. And the next step is the screen will look like this. GNU General Public License. It will ask you the acceptance, and you are clicking the next button in this step 2. And next step 3 is default components are automatically selected in this step. So automatically whatever we are installing the Git package, the default components will be selected automatically in this step. So after that, you can choose or you can omit the unnecessary part also. You can delete the unnecessary components too, or you can add any other component to the Git package. And next, if you selected the components means you can finish this step and you can select next from this window. The next step 4 is the default Git command line options are selected automatically. That is the Git from the command line and also from third-party software. You can choose your preferred choice also, whatever you want. So use Git from Git Bash only, or else you can use Git and optional Unix tools from the command prompt. So 3 other options are there. So okay, so you can choose any other option from this, and you can click next. And after completing the step 4, next it will transfer to the another screen. That is default transport backend options are selected in this step. That is transport option. What are the necessary library we have to install in the Git package? While installing the Git package, what are the necessary library function for communicating? In this, we are backend options. We can choose from this, use the open SSL library. Next, we can click the next button. So after completing the step 5, we are stepping to step 6. That is, we are selecting your required line ending option and click next to continue. That is, check out Windows style, commit Unix style line endings. You can use Unix line endings or Linux line endings. Okay, so you can have this options. You can choose any one of this, and we can click the next button. Next, the step 7. What is the Step 7 means it is you have to select the preferred terminal, emulator, click on the next to continue. So that is use default terminal. Okay. So generally while setting up the Git package, we have to terminal emulator. What you have to select means a default terminal of a Git. Okay. So after clicking that, you can continue with the next step. Next steps 8 is this is the last step that provides some extra feature like system caching, credential management, and symbolic link. Select the required features and click on the next option. Okay, so what are all the options? What are the features you want to add? So you can click on this and you can skip on to the next step. So step 9, the files are being extracted in this step. So what are all the, while installing, what are all the library files, what are all the command features, what are all the inline commands, so everything will be extracted in this step. So this is step 9. After installing this, completing this step, the Git GUI look like this. So after completing this 9 step, the Git installation is completed. Now you can access both Git GUI and Git Bash. The Git GUI looks like this screen. Okay, so it facilitates 3 features. One is we can create a new repository and clone existing repository and open existing repository. Okay, so Git GUI, once installing the Git, you can have both Git GUI and Git Bash. Okay, so Git GUI looks like this and it will have 3 features. One is create the repository, and we have next feature is we are cloning the existing repository, and we are third feature is we are opening the existing repository. So next, Git Bash. The Git Bash, after installation of Git, it will have a Git GUI and Git Bash. Git Bash looks like the screen. So you can type the Git commands in this desktop, that is command line prompt. Okay, these are all the steps for the installation of Git. So the Git is a distributed version control system. That's all about the version control system as we seen today. So next class we can able to concentrate on more on Git commands. Okay. So thank you everyone. Thanks for giving this opportunity.